guys, I just want to read an excerpt from the Kalevala really quick. So, in Meriden, the magician works unceasing at his witchcraft, molding well a golden maiden, bride of molten gold and silver. But the workmen fail their master. Faithlessly, they apply the bellows. And yes, you're right, I was faking it. This isn't actually the Kalevala. I was actually reading off of my cell phone, which was put inside this book called The Adventurer. So, in a way, I'm basically making a new adventure into the Amorphis discography. So, now, I just want to give you a bit more of my literary side, if you will. Sorry if you can't hear me, I have to whisper in here because I'm in the library, so I have no choice. So yeah, take it or leave it. But anyway, let's begin a new quest into Amorphis. The Karelian Isthmus by Amorphis. So the Karelian Isthmus is Amorphis' debut album. This is considered to be their rawest, most rough around the edges album, if you will. This is the album that started it all. So this album is very atypical for the band Amorphis, who are known for a much more melodic style of metal. And I mean, at the time that they released this, this was definitely considered to be very melodic. I mean, still, the music itself is still very melodic, but just in a different sort of way. While later on, they'll definitely incorporate like pianos and flutes and acoustic guitars and all that. And yeah, while this album's still very much melodic in context of those later albums, which you'll see down the line, incorporating more keyboards, flutes, acoustic guitars. This is definitely the most aggressive, in-your-face, fuck you and then some sort of style of metal. It's like Bergtot for Over, Dance of December Souls for Catatonia, Serenades, and The Silent Enigma for Anathema. It's just a band starting out way more extreme before they soften up and mature a bit for their later albums. There's really not much to say about this album. It's just sort of a standard melodic death metal album. It didn't really make as much of an impact, but it certainly it left a mark, but it didn't leave as big of a mark as the next album, Tales from a Thousand Lakes, would. But for what this album is, it's still a very solid slab of just pounding in-your-face melodic death metal with some doom elements here and there. This is definitely very low on the lush production with the acoustic guitars and the pianos and the folky instruments. Although you do get sort of a folky instrumental in the beginning with Karelia, it's not something that's prevalent throughout the entire album. That's just a little thing to set the album off. There are some really good highlights in here, like one of them is The Gathering. I also like Grail's Mysteries, Warrior's Trial, The Lost Name of God, The Pilgrimage. Those are just a couple that I really like. And Vulgar Necrolatry. Sorry if I butchered that. It's a cover of their former band, Abhorred. I guess that was what Amorphis used to be, just a more standard like death metal band. And you could definitely hear that it's definitely more of like a standard death metal style. That's how they originally started off, with just standard death metal with a bit of melodic tendencies here and there. It's definitely not like Cannibal Corpse or Obituary or anything like that, but it's definitely nothing at all like the later work that they'll do. But again, there's really not that much to say about this album. It lacks the typical Amorphis trademarks that I've come to know and love this band for. And for and that's one of the reasons why I consider this to be one of the weakest Amorphis albums. It definitely doesn't stand out in my mind nearly as much as their later efforts, and I think it's just, it's just standard melodic death metal album. I think it could have been released by any band, so that's why I consider this to be one of their weaker efforts. But it's still enjoyable. It's not a terrible effort. I still think it's a very good, solid effort from an up-and-coming band. It definitely left a good first impression on new audiences, and it kept them interested in what they'll release later on down the line. I would have to give this about a 7.5 out of 10. Very solid album. They definitely got some good ideas here and there, and it serves its job as a debut album, so I guess that speaks a lot, and definitely shows potential for the band to improve, which they definitely will. And yeah, again, I think that's all I really have to say about this album. I don't really have much to say about it, but I just want to give my 5 cents about it. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for Tales of the Thousand Lakes.